Hey guys, welcome. We are live, coming to you live from Virginia, answering your heating and air questions live. And I think I've said live 5 times now, so we'll say it again, live. And as always, we're usually joined by a few other pros. And so if I don't know the answer to your question, a lot of times one of them will. So welcome, Bob. Good to see you. Gil, Carl, Mark. Some of you guys have tuned in a few times or, are here every week. So welcome to all of you. If you've never joined us live before, you get to stare at this fat face for an hour and ask some heat and air questions, and we try to answer those. I will say I've got a little surprise for you tonight if you're tuning in. As some of you know, I went to Houston, Texas a couple weeks ago, and we toured the Daikin factory, which is the largest heating and air manufacturing facility in North America. So we kind of went a little behind the scenes and recorded we actually recorded one thing that has never, ever been recorded before. And so we were allowed to do that, which is kind of cool. And I finally got all the approvals that I needed to launch that video. We had to make a few changes, and I'm going to show you a clip of that video tonight. So we're going to show you the first 30 seconds to a minute of that video. I can't show you the entire thing yet because it's not 100% done, I guess is the best way to say it. There's a few things I've got to blur out. They have said, look, you can show this area, but you got to blur these things out. They're proprietary, and we've got to do that. And then I've got one more thing I've got to add to the video to make it completely 100% done. And so I look for that video to probably launch in the next day or two. Probably Thursday evening is probably when that'll go live. If I can get everything done tomorrow, then maybe we'll get it live tomorrow evening, but it's probably going to be Thursday evening, to be honest with you. So looking forward to that. I will tell you, I put more time, more effort, more everything into this one video that you guys are going to see 2 days from now. It's the first time, a lot of firsts. It's the first time I've ever traveled to another state to record a video. Hey Arch, good to see you. It's the first time I ever did I've ever done a video like this particular type of video where I'm kind of going into a factory or somewhere like that. It's the first time I'm blurring things out. I've never had to blur anything out before. So a lot of firsts with this video. And again, it'll be going live later this week. And, that'll be hopefully you guys like it. Again, I've put literally more time, effort, and if you want to call it blood, sweat, and tears into this one single video than any other video. And so we're going to have more videos coming from that trip. Obviously, we were there for 3 days, basically 2.5, if you want to, be technical about it. And we're going to do several videos on that trip, but there's this first video coming out is kind of the trip itself, kind of an all-encompassing overview of the entire trip. So again, we're going to show that tonight. So you guys are going to get first peek at that video, the video that I've put more time and effort and anything than any other video, and you guys are going to get to see that tonight. I'm going to show you the first little bit of it. I would show you the whole thing, but I can't. It's not quite done. I've still got to blur some things out and stuff. So anyway. Gary says, good evening, Josh and friends. Just off the road from a job in Bar Harbor, Maine. I'm so jealous of you. My wife and I have always wanted to go to Maine, and we probably will sometime soon. Right now, we're raising a small child, and traveling's not first thing on the list, but good for you. Boss got me back in time for the show. That's great, man. Good to have you. And N.R. Bailey. I'm going to call you Bailey, if that's okay. Greetings from Charlotte. I love Charlotte as well. I have a dog that we actually picked up in Charlotte one time. We drove all the way to Charlotte to get her. And Arch says, what about the hidden camera? We didn't have to hide anything. If you're talking about the trip I went on, there was no camera hiding. I kind of wondered if that might be something that we have to do at some point. But, they were nice enough to let us, get behind those closed doors and record some of these things. And, of course, we didn't want to abuse that. But because of that, we do still have to, make sure that we are protecting them, as far as their proprietary technologies and things like that. So it's really only one spot in the entire video that I'm having to blur. And you guys will see that. But anyway, it's just kind of crazy, So, Arch says, been to LL Bean and got to see their trout pond inside the store. Very cool. I actually wear LL Beans every single day, and so that's kind of cool. So I'm an LL Bean fan. So anyway, yeah. So again, if you're just tuning in, it looks like we've had a few more folks just join us. We're going to be giving you first peek to the video that I've put more time and effort, blood, sweat, and tears into. One video than any other video, and I'm going to give you guys first peek at that tonight. And again, it'll be launching later this week. It'll probably go live Thursday evening. So I'm going to show you a little clip of that. And so welcome to all you guys just joining us. Emery says, how expensive is an out-of-warranty compressor failure? Depends on what kind of compressor it is, depending on what brand it is. If you want to share what brand it is, I might be able to kind of give you a snapshot. Of course, what area you're in also plays a role. Some areas, the cost of living's higher, and so the companies charge a little higher. So before we dive into it, again, if you have any heating and air questions, please put those in the chat, and we will get to those. But I want to start tonight's show out with a crazy, crazy, crazy story coming out of Connecticut. And I'm going to get you guys to see my browser. This is, let's see, I guess it's called CT up here. I don't know if you guys can see my cursor, but up here there's the NBC symbol and then CT. And then it looks like this story is out of, I guess, Connecticut. It says NBC CT. But it says the state revokes registration for owner of Danielson HVAC company after complaints. And so this is just crazy. It says the Department of Consumer Protection has revoked the home improvement contractor registration for Danielson Man, who they said was accused of performing unlicensed HVAC work that caused significant damage to consumers' homes. The department investigated Justin Lano and his company CT Heat Pros and said that he elected not to defend the case. The allegations included improper or incomplete installations of heating and cooling units, new heating installations causing issues with existing cooling systems, piping, water leaks, ductwork that was undersized for the space, shoddy workmanship, instances of work where no permits were obtained, unreturned phone calls, missed appointments, and unanswered requests for refunds, according to the department. Investigators are continuing to follow up on complaints that were not included in this decision, and the Department of Consumer Protection said Lano was never licensed to perform any occupational work such as heating, piping, cooling, duct, or sheet metal work. The hearing officer issued an order revoking Lano's home improvement contractor registration, assessing $74,625 in civil penalties, and awarding $152,265.07 in restitution to the impacted customers. The Department of Consumer Protection said it was working with consumers to obtain restitution and will help them submit applications to the Home Improvement Guarantee Fund. NBC-CT responds first reported on the complaints against Lano in 2021. So this has been going on for a few years now, it looks like. And let's see, I'm just going to kind of browse through the rest of this. Somebody looking for $10,000 of relief for repairs. Lano is facing criminal charges in separate case. Oh, crazy. He has pled not guilty to those charges. In July 2021, the Department of Consumer Protection issued a call for additional complaints for consumers. Blah, blah. I shouldn't say blah, 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 but I'm just skimming over this. What to do? And they give you a few places to go if you have these issues with another contractor. So, again, I'm not real sure. It says CT this, CT that. Where is this company? Where any of you guys know where this company is based out of? Let me know. Local. I'm just trying to figure out. I don't know if CT means it actually is in Connecticut, or is this where is this company? They don't make it real obvious, do they? Contact us. Let's see if it's here. There we go. West Hartford, Connecticut. So that's where the actual office for this news organization is located. So anyway, you just never know. Some people put, initials by their names and maybe it didn't mean Connecticut. But anyway, crazy story out of Connecticut. What do you guys think of that? They revoked the guy's license to be a contractor when he was doing unlicensed heating and air work. And maybe that's a little bit of a, I hear people sometimes they'll comment on our stuff and say, well, companies don't need to be licensed and just because they're not licensed doesn't mean they do bad work. And, a lot of times I can't argue with that. Maybe it doesn't, but it's obvious that, this company was on the hook for, not taking care of folks for the very least. They weren't doing things properly. They weren't licensed to be doing the work they were doing. They weren't pulling permits. They weren't doing good work. And worst of all, after all of that, they were not returning phone calls and things like that. So anyway, what a crazy story out of Connecticut. Let's see. Ryan says, are you excited about anything you saw that's unreleased? I know you can't talk about it, but you were actually impressed with anything releasing soon or prototypes. Ryan, yes, I am. Great question. I talked a little bit about this, I think either last week or maybe when I was actually in Houston, so the week before, but there's been years in the past where things were coming out and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool, no problem, whatever, new stuff. But this is the first time that they're coming out with stuff that I am actually going to get to use, that there's a few things they're going to be launching that I can't wait to get my hands on it. And that I can say it's been a while since I've said things like that about some other stuff. So I remember when the Daikin 1 came out and I was a little hard on them about the, that thermostat, but they've come out since then with the Daikin 1 Touch and things. What's really cool, and just to kind of piggyback off of that, Ryan, is what's cool is I emailed them and said, hey, here's a list of the things you guys told me, new products, new things. Which one of these can I go ahead and talk about? Which ones can I not? And some of them I was surprised they're okay with me going ahead and talking about. So we're going to have videos as soon as this one comes out on Thursday. We've got videos coming out right behind it on some of the new stuff coming out. And so they've given me the green light to share some of those things. And one of them in particular, I'm really excited about. So I'm not going to share it now, though. I'm going to do a video on it. Arch says, do you think that the quality of the parts for package heat pumps is pretty much the same amongst major manufacturers? For the most part, probably. I can tell you, I don't want to bash any brands right this second. I've already done a lot of that in my videos, but I can tell you that I was working on one a couple weeks ago and I was like, just not in love with this, the quality here of a few things. But I think to answer your question in general, yeah, especially gas packs across the board. If you're comparing a 14 SEER system to another 14 SEER system, same spec, same, BTUs, all that stuff, they're almost all built close to the same. Some are better than others. Some of them, they thought about, having to replace the heat exchanger, and, maybe they piece something together a little differently. But for the most part, quality wise, I would say they're all close. So I would worry more about the I know you've been talking about a while of getting a system installed, and I would focus on finding a good contractor and worry less about the brand, to be honest with you. Ryan says, I wish more places banned companies that are unlicensed that trick people. Yeah, I know of a company here locally, and they don't even do heating and air, so I'm not bashing a competitor, but they do other things, and they literally have licensed and insured written on their business cards, and they're not. They're not licensed and insured. And so you say, well, why isn't there any repercussions? Unfortunately, at least here in my state, it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of repercussions until the damage is done. And then once the damage is done, then a homeowner can sue them for false representing themselves. But, I know there are some states that are stricter than others. And in my experience, maybe somebody from the state of Virginia will see this and tell me I'm wrong, but I don't see much policing of that. I see guys all the time doing stuff that, they're not licensed to do, or they didn't pull a permit for, or they don't do good work, and there's really no repercussions for that. And so until the homeowner goes after them. So kind of sad. Bailey says, what you are reading is Webster definition of jackleg. That's funny. Yeah. When you say reading, you mean when I was mumbling and stumbling over my words. But yeah, that's funny. Jackleg. Emery says, I hope the homeowner sues for damages. It sounds like they did. I think that's what that whole story was kind of about there, and how they were getting settlements there. That's what I was skimming over at the end there. Bob says, if customers don't follow the rules, they shouldn't be in business. Oh, if companies don't follow the rules, they shouldn't be in business. Eric, good to see you. I don't think I've seen your name before, so welcome to the show. I'm looking forward to the Inflation Reduction Act heat pump rebate money to be available. You're not the only one, pal. I think a lot of folks are kind of keeping an eye on that. I know there's parts of that program that supposedly went live January 1st of this year, but I've had multiple people, and especially even people on the show, say that, it's not fully live, that they can't take advantage of it yet. So I don't really know. I don't claim to be a tax expert. But when you read websites that go over it and they say it goes live January 1st, 2023, and then I hear folks saying, I can't get it. That's interesting. I don't, again, I'm not a tax expert. Arch says it would be great if they came out with a Daikin fit to replace the package heat pump. I think, Arch, your wishes will become reality soon. I don't know about Daikin specifically, but I think you are going to see more inverter package systems coming out over the next, I'd say, 5 years. I could be wrong, but I know of one already on the market, and I think we're going to see more in the future, especially you guys out in Arizona, out there in the West, that like to put package units on your roof. Arch says, I checked the state's website for registered contractors in my area to see if they had a license and if there were any complaints against them. That's smart. Some states don't have that, so that's great that you do. Emery says, worst HVAC install you have seen. Sorry, I can't read. Worst HVAC install that you have seen. Ooh, I've seen quite a few. In fact, we have seen them. In fact, one as recent as I think about a month ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, we had it where we had to say to the customer, look, this system is in such bad shape from the install. It's not even bad shape as in, recent Band-Aids and they didn't do things right. But from the very get-go, from the install, we can see so many things wrong that we just simply, we cannot put our hands on this and try to, because we're going to be constantly band-aiding. We're going to get this straight, and then you're going to call us a week later because something else is wrong. It was just such a mess. And so we have to sometimes have a hard conversation with customers and say, look, this all needs to be redone correctly for us to feel good about putting our name on this, Arch says, you can say that again. No information so far in Arizona yet. These are supposedly IRA point of purchase rebates for replacing old heat pumps. Yeah, when they come out with stuff like this, they definitely need to streamline it a little better. I think that if you have a system installed and you can provide proof that it was installed, proof that you paid for it, and proof of an AHRI certificate that matches that, then you should be able to get, your reimbursement, right? I don't think that would be too hard to keep track of. And also, but I do think you could also make the argument that they make it hard on people. I mean, look at taxes today. They make it hard on people for a reason. They don't want it to make it too easy for you. So that's just the conspiracy side of me coming out, right? Bob says, I heard the program is supposed to kick in at the end of 2023 or early 2024. Your guess is as good as mine. I've heard multiple different things. Do you think that manufacturers, Arch says, and HVAC companies are going to raise their prices when the IRA rebates come out and at the end of consumer won't benefit much at all? Arch, I think there are companies that do things like that. Yeah, definitely. That's why I always recommend folks to get at least minimum 3 quotes. In fact, Eric, I'll come back to your question in a second. I do want to share a quick story. I was helping a guy on our new HVAC guide last week, and I'm trying to remember where he was located. I think he was in California. And anyway, we were going through some of the quotes he got, and I was trying to help him through who to pick. And basically, the company he had chosen, he had narrowed it down, and he had his reasons for picking them. And so I just trying to help the guy out, I went through some of the reviews the company had, and I said, first of all, the company only has I think it was a 1.8 star rating on Yelp total, and a 3.5 on Google. And I told him, I was like, I'm never going to tell you who to pick, but that's a huge concern. 3.5 on Google, there's no such thing as putting a 0 review on there. So if they have, say, 500 reviews and there are enough of them that they're putting 1 star, 1 star, 1 star to pull it all the way down to 3.5, that's a concern, And so I just thought that, he actually messaged me this morning, and I think he's, found a better company and things like that. But, I think that when you're looking at companies and deciding who to pick, I think that, that's something you should definitely take a look at. Definitely online reputation, especially today, it's huge, right? Eric says, my contractor installed return ducts in my bedrooms, which helps cool the house much better. My 15-year-old AC is 4 tons, and my load calculation in my house is 2.5 tons of cooling, so it does short cycle. Yeah, that's, 1.5 tons too big is a lot. 1.5 tons, that's, you're looking at 1,000 extra square feet in most houses, so it's going to short cycle. You could have humidity issues depending on where you're located in the country. And, yeah, that's a shame. Arch says, I agree 100% that it should be easier and shouldn't have to jump through a bunch of hoops. Ryan says, any cheap fixes you can share with homeowners. Recently, I fixed a humming sound coming from my return vents by bending the return grill slits. Now I don't even hear it anymore. any cheap fixes. I just did a video where I talked about some of the products you can buy online and save some money. If you haven't seen that video, check that out. Some of the products we go over are products that, you know, that the homeowner themselves can get. You can buy it online, and in some cases, buying it online, you might even get a higher quality product in the end. And so if you haven't seen that video, check it out. But we do plan to do another video soon. I've had it in the books for a while. It's been in my list of videos to make where we talk about repair or improvements to your system you can make for less than $50 is essentially what that video is going to be called. So we're coming up on 9 o'clock, and as long as I don't miss the time, around 9 o'clock is when I'll show you guys that video I was telling you about. So again, we've had a few folks join us. If you weren't here earlier, my most invested video I've ever made, we're going to be showing a clip of that tonight. It's going to go live later this week, but we're going to show that video around 9 o'clock or so. Ryan says, I used to have to put fillers. I don't know if that means filters, but anyway, I used to have to put fillers on both of the supply and return side to muffle the sound of the air moving through the vents. Still didn't have horrible static pressures, but I know that wasn't recommended. Yeah, I mean, just be careful. You know, if you start manipulating the air coming out and you're adding static, a lot of ductwork is undersized to start with, so just be careful. Emery says, why would a contractor install an oversized air conditioner? Emery, your question is that your guess is as good as mine. I think sometimes it's ignorance, sometimes it's laziness, sometimes we just came across a system, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, that the year of the house being built was 2019, and the year of the system was like 2012 or 2013. And so that led us to believe possibly, and of course we're just speculating, but it's possible that that system was installed somewhere else and then it got moved there, you know, to save money. Sometimes they might not care so much that it's oversized. Maybe they're like, well, I've got this old thing sitting in my garage. Let me just slap it in there. And, you know, we don't see that as much these days, but you still see it from time to time, things like that. Arch says, some HVAC guy said the rule of thumb for out here in Arizona is 1 ton for every 400 square feet. None of the HVAC contractors that have given us estimates did a load calculation. Yeah, 1 ton for every 400 square feet. The thing, I've seen stuff online, right? You see these websites where they'll say, well, if your house is this many square feet. The problem with that is not all square feet houses are created equal. So you could take a house that's, say, 2,000 square feet and have 8-foot ceilings versus a house that has, say, you know, a part of their house that has 20-foot vaulted ceilings, or one house is in the sun, one isn't. One house is, you know, in a humid environment where another one, I mean, there's just so many variables, number of windows, the R value of the insulation. So to just go by square feet alone is just simply not the best way to do it. It's not even a good way to do it. Shelby, welcome to the show. Says Eric's comment, does installing additional return ducts help with humidity control? It can. If you've got a part of the house that, you know, it's not getting good return air being pulled through those parts of the house, it's very possible that, you know, it could affect your humidity control. Ryan says, if I have a 4-ton unit with 3 returns, is that enough return for that size system? Ryan, you know what? I don't normally do this, but let me grab my duculator. Let me make sure I have it. Give me 1 second. Boo! All right, I don't normally do this, especially live, right? But we're going to do just a quick, just so you guys can see it. I've got my handy dandy train duculator, and we're going to just real quick just see if a 4-ton system, 3 returns. So we got a 14 by 25. 14 by 25. 14 by 25. So that's going to be for around, looks like around 1900. So we'll say 1800 CFMs. So 1800 CFMs. Your second one is another 14 by 25. So that's 1800. And then finally a 14 by 14. And that's for about 800 CFMs. All right, so we've got 1800 plus 1800, that's 3600 plus 800. So that's 4400 CFMs for return. And for return ducts, we want 600 CFMs per ton. And you said you've got a 4-ton, so that's, you've got way and plenty of return there. So you really only need, for good airflow at a 0.5 static pressure, 600 CFMs per ton, which would put you at, unless I'm doing my math wrong, 6 times 4, 2400. And you're at 4400. So you should have plenty of return air there, Ryan. That's going to be a real quiet system for you. Good thing about residential is, I mean, I can't say you can't oversize it too much, but in general, it's okay to oversize your return ducts a little bit. And so, you know, you should have plenty of air there. All right, Arch, we will come back to you in just a second. Let me see if I can get this this video loaded for you guys. I'm going to show you the first little bit. I'm going to show you guys the first little bit of, bear with me, of that video that we have coming out later this week. I've put more time and effort in this one video than any other video. And bear with me. It's probably going to play a commercial here. Yeah, it did. Share this tab. Skip. All right, hopefully you guys can see this. I'm going to turn my microphone off. Well, I guess I can leave it on, but I'm going to shut up now. And hopefully you guys can hear this. So here we go. Let me actually zoom in here. Bear with me. All right, so again, this is going later. You guys are getting first peek at the most invested video I've ever made, and here we go. So hope you guys enjoy it. We're going to watch the first minute or so of this video.
We toured the largest heating and air manufacturing facility in the nation. Welcome to Daikin.
In this video, we are going to show you what's behind closed doors for most homeowners and show you things that have never been recorded before. Never. We're going to show you how this massive facility in small town America is changing the HVAC industry. And we will even show you some upcoming products that haven't been released to the market yet. Most of that will be in our new series that you can find in our YouTube playlist called Daikin, Texas Technology Park Trip. But best of all, we are going to show you the real magic, which is the people making it all happen.
So that's it, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. We're going to, like I say, launch that video later this week. We've just got to get a few things straight with a few things later in the video. But let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you thought of that little clip there. That is, hopefully it came on okay. Hopefully you guys could hear it okay and all that good stuff. But this sometimes I can see what's going on this computer over here, and I don't right now. So anyway, so let me know what you guys thought. Again, that's just the first little bit, and we're going to be launching that entire video later this week once I get a few things straight in it to make the powers that be happy, and we'll launch that video. So all right, back to our questions. Arch says, one HVAC contractor wanted to make a hole in the roof and install a return duct because he said the return air through the walls wasn't efficient. I would get, if you're not quite sure about that, Arch, you guys do things a little differently out there in the West. So I will say, get another opinion if you're not quite sure. I don't want to comment on that and steer you the wrong way. If he's been to your house, he may be telling you the truth. Get another opinion or two if you're not quite sure. Carl says, I'd want to know the duct size. Biomed Lib says, if I had a return to the second floor, will it remove the... I'm not sure what you were asking there, pal. Maybe give me a little more context. Arch says, looked pretty professional, like the aerial view of the drone camera. Thank you. Yeah, that was my first vision before I ever even went to Houston. I wanted the beginning of the video to be that shot. So Emery says, how does a dirty air filter impact the performance of an HVAC system? The main thing it does, Emery, is it slows down air, and so that system is designed to have a certain amount of air be pushed across that evaporator coil, among other things, and that's the main thing it does. But it does put more and wear and tear on the motor, the indoor fan motor if it's dirty, and things like that, added static and so on. But if you're not getting enough air across that evaporator coil, it could ice up, and you could have other issues as well. Gil says, looks like it's going to be a great video. Can't wait to see it. Thanks, Gil. Yeah, you guys are just seeing the first minute there. The video itself is going to be long, about 12 to 13 minutes long in total. And we, I don't know. I put so much time and effort into that video. I really hope you guys like it. I hope it does well. And it's unlike any other video I've done. So Carl says, have you installed any of the VRV units? Yeah, we've installed several of the VRV Life systems, which is the residential VRV systems, and I love them. I would only install those if I could. They're a little pricey, especially for residential applications, but the VRV Life, I believe, it might not be the only one, but it's definitely one of the only systems out there that has the VRV, VRF technology that can be also paired with a gas furnace. And so super efficient, and it can be paired with that furnace. So Bailey says, company I work for sells Daikin. Very cool. Bailey, feel free to give them a shout out if you'd like. That's totally up to you, but if you want to name drop and shout that company out there, go for it. Ryan says, good production value in the video. I like the different shots. Thanks, pal. BioMedLib says, if I had a return to the second floor, will it remove some of the heat on the second floor? Yes. That's that. If you don't currently have a return up there, adding a return will allow for better airflow, because if let's say your return's on the first floor and you've got supply vents up there, that air has so far to travel to be able to go back down to the first floor, and heat rises anyway, so you being able to create that quicker loop is how I would define it. Putting another return up there, creating that quicker loop, you're getting air circulated through there much faster. Gary says, love the video intro. As a musician, how did you decide on the synth themed music? Gary, I wish I could give you like some fancy answer to that. I'll be honest with you. I went through the YouTube archives of free music, and that was my favorite one I found. I probably listened to 50 to 100 songs, and that was my favorite one, and that's the one I chose. So Arch says, my wife didn't want another hole in the roof. None of the other HVAC contractors recommended a new return air duct. I will say it does sound a little odd. I mean, if the old system was there and it was working just fine, adding a whole new hole in the roof, I would want more of an explanation than that. Flat roofs are a pain to maintain. Amen to that. Sheldon says, do we have any replacement for 410A yet? Yes, they do have a replacement refrigerant, and I did a video on it. Let me see if I can find that video. Give me just a second, and I will drop that link for you. Give me 1 second here. 410. Give me just a second. First 410A. Here we go. Copy. Here you go, Sheldon. That video right there goes through it was the first replacement refrigerant that came out for 410A. Shelby says, how do you feel about UV lights? Are they necessary, and what types do you find are most effective? And what is the best location on the air handler to install? So Shelby, great question. I am a huge believer in UV lights. I have one in my house on both systems. I believe every system in America should have one. It's one of the only products out there that I believe as such. So these days, my little 10-second commercial is, I believe every house should have surge protection these days, and I believe every house these days should have at least one UV light. They inhibit mold growth. They inhibit other microbial growth. They literally sanitize anything that light shines on. They even use it in plumbing in some homes. If you've got water that needs to be sanitized in some way, they make UVC lights for that. And so I think ideally, obviously it costs more, but I think that it would be great if every house had one on the return side of the evaporator coil and one on the supply side of the evaporator coil, with some of that light, or as much of that light as possible, shining on the primary drain pan, to keep it clean as well, So I have seen heating and air systems where, that water comes down and it kind of sits in the drain pan a little bit, and things start to change colors, and, kind of looks like things are starting to grow there. And I would, that's where I would put them. Carl just says, I saw a video of another HVAC tech trashing UV. I'd love to hear his reason why he trashes them. One thing they used to say when UV lights first came out is how they would melt things. And that wasn't a problem with the UV light. That was a problem with the materials that they were pairing them with back then. I can tell you that a lot of the media filters would melt, if the UV light was just constantly shining on them. And at least Aprilaire, the ones that we sell, they stopped doing that. They started building them or designing them so that does not happen. So I'd be curious on what his reasoning for trashing them are. Some of these guys, and I'm guilty of this, I think some heating and air guys trash things for no reason. I think they have no reason to trash it other than, well, everybody else believes in that, so I'm just going to, you like Ford, I'm going to like Chevrolet, I don't think houses need them. We lived hundreds of years without them. Well, we also lived hundreds of years without having homes that are as tight as these are these days. And they didn't worry about things like VOCs and things like, recycled air and all the other things that we have with some of the homes being built today. So, I just think that that's just a silly argument to say that. So I would love to hear why he trashed the UV. Not really, to be honest. I don't really care why he trashed them. Everybody has their own opinion, but that's my opinion. I think they're great, and I think every house should have one. I don't know why you would think they shouldn't be in there. Another thing they used to say is they would shine on the pans, and the pans would become brittle and crack. Well, I'll tell you this, some pans, even without UV lights, get brittle and crack. First of all, one brand in particular, I'm not going to say which one, but one brand in particular, their drain pans seem to crack after a few years anyway. And so if they want to blame it on the UV light, I can show them, several of their cheap made drain pans that do it even without a UV light. And, so I think that's just kind of a cop out, What's so bad about sanitizing things and keeping things clean? Stop it. As my old boss used to say, stop it. Just stop it. Carl says, do you wire UV lights in parallel with the blower? No. I wire them on the line voltage coming into the air handler. So most of our UV lights are 240 volt. They had come with their own transformer to step it down to whatever voltage it steps it down to. And then that's how they do it. So I don't wire it parallel with the blower. Ryan says some home performance professionals like only using forced air and media filters for cleaning air. They say UV lights and ionizers change the chemistry of the air. I will say that if there's a product that creates ozone, then it's probably not good, but there are UV lights and ionizers on the market that don't create ozone. So that's not a great argument either. And then the thing with filters, I like filters. I have a whole house 4-inch thick media filter on my downstairs unit, and we replace the media in it once a year, and I'm a believer in that, and I like that it has a higher MERV rating and all of those things. However, filters do not kill mold. Filters only filter the air. So if there's mold growing in that primary drain pan or on the side of the air handler insulation, I've seen it. So don't tell me it's not there. I've literally opened air handlers and seen a little bit of, something growing in there, microbial growth. And even on the evaporator coils, I've seen how nasty they can get. And I've seen what UV lights can do. So filters filter the air great, but they don't do the things that UV lights do. They don't kill mold, for one. So anyway, I don't mean for this whole entire show to be on me saying how great UV lights are when other heat and air guys are saying how bad they are, but I don't understand. If you don't want to sell them, don't sell them. If you don't want to keep them on your truck to sell to customers, but to say that, they're bad, what's so bad about having things clean? It's like saying cleaning my house is bad. Having a clean house, mopping my floors, that's bad. Well, there are lots of people, I've been in those homes where they don't mop their floors very often, and they probably, have a reason. But to say that, to use that same argument, UV lights, just because you don't want to sell them or install them, doesn't mean they're bad. Having clean floors in your house aren't bad, Art says, can most package heat pumps be fitted with a filter rack with a 4-inch thick filter? Can most package units heat pumps? I'm going to read this again, and I'm going to read it right this time. Can most package heat pumps be fitted with a filter rack with a 4-inch thick filter? I'd like a thicker filter that can be changed twice a year so I don't have to climb up on the roof as often. Arch, yeah, I think the answer to your question is yes in most cases, but they should be able to figure something out to where you don't have to climb up on the roof at all. They should be able to install filter grills and come up with some sort of solution so you're not having to do that. That's a huge concern, huge safety concern. Arch says, is there any particular UV light brand that is more reliable than others? I mean, the ones we sell are made by Blue Tube. I'm not sponsored by them. I don't have a little affiliate link. I wish I did. I wish I could say UV lights are great. Buy these so I can get a commission. I don't have that set up right now, but I will say that we sell the Bluetooth ones. They come with a 2-year warranty on the bulb and a lifetime warranty on the other parts. So that's one thing I like about them. And they seem to do pretty good. Thomas says, what you think about Bryant HVAC systems, heating and air 95%? I think they're fine. I don't. Maybe if you want to be a little more specific on what you're comparing it to, or what you mean by what do I think of them. Bryant is the same as Carrier, and Carrier is one of the big three in the industry. The big three are Daikin, Trane, and Carrier. I know the Linux guys cringe when I say that, but let's be honest, those are the big three. Ryan says, do UV lights need to run all day or only when the system is running, or does it even matter? I think that in most systems, the UV light just stays on all the time. They don't draw that much energy anyway, and they're constantly sanitizing things. They're constantly shining that light on something and doing the things they do. Arch says, the only thing I liked about installing a new return air duct was that I could change the filter from the inside instead of having to go up on the roof. I don't blame you, Arch. They should be able to figure something out for you. I'll definitely look into that so I don't have to get on the roof. Yeah, that's a huge safety concern. I don't. Of course, we don't do the package units up on the roof like you guys do, but I could never. I can't imagine. I'm just thinking of some of my customers. And some of them with their physical limitations, maybe they're getting up in age. Maybe they just simply don't want to climb up there because it's just such a safety issue. I can't believe they can't figure something out for you to where you don't have to climb up there. That's a huge safety issue in my opinion, unless they're intending on you to have them do it for you. And it's more of a sales tactic maybe. I don't know. Bob says, Honeywell used to make a UV light with a 3-year warranty. UV should be on all the time. Yeah, that's the ones we install is the Bluetooth 2-year ones, but there's plenty of good ones out there. That's just the ones we install. Our supplier sells them. I can usually get a decent price on them, and obviously install them for the customer at a more competitive price than some of the other UV lights. My UV is a dust-free light stick, is installed in the supply plenum, shining up in. Man, I cannot read tonight. I think what I do, the problem I have is I start reading ahead with my eyes, but I'm still saying the words from 4 words ago, and then I start messing up. So I'm going to try to read that one more time, Shelby. My UV is a dust-free light stick, is installed in the supply plenum, shining up on the pan on an upright, I guess you call it, install, changed 1x every 2 years. Me and my reading skills, guys. That's the crazy thing about live shows is you guys get to see how the hot dogs are made. I look for that video that I showed you guys. Look for that to be launching later this week. We also have the videos I told you guys about some of the newer Daikin products. Those are going to be launching soon, and then we have some of the exclusive interviews that we did while we were there that'll be coming right behind that. So I think this first video, I basically needed to get everybody's blessing there and make sure that they were okay with me showing certain things and blurring out certain things and all that good stuff. And then, the rest of these videos as we go down this road should be able to come out a little quicker. There won't be as much red tape because, I'll just have 1 or 2 people in the video and we won't have to get so many approvals, which is good. Let's see. Arch says only one company recommended a UV light and said it would add another $1,000 to the estimate. See, that's what I mean. Some of these guys are just charging so much money, and maybe what the product they're selling you, maybe it's just more the more expensive products out there. But that's why I like the one that we install. We can usually, sell it for less than some of these guys are paying for the actual product itself, and they do great. They get the job done. Are they fancy? No. Do they have titanium cells, self-cleaning technology, all these different things that we see? No, it's a simple UVC light that shines on the coil, keeping it clean and keeping it from, microbial growth and things like that. So that's why I like them. They're simple, but they get the job done. Carl says your tongue is getting in the way of your eye tooth and you can't see WA. What you're saying. Gotcha. Yeah, you're right. I think it's just, it might be just that I'm not very smart, Carl. Where I grew up, we'd always say, yeah, I went to Buffalo Gap, which is the name of the high school I went to. And, so people would be like, oh yeah, you went to Buffalo Gap. There you go. So no, actually some people I went to school with have been doing some really cool things. I know one guy's in some sort of, he was a couple years ahead of me, but he's in some sort of politics now, which, may not necessarily be a good thing, but, you can't be a complete moron and do some of the things he's done. I know a couple of the people that I went to school with are, now working for some pretty big companies and doing some really cool things. I know one girl's a chemist now, which is kind of cool. And then aside from all of that, I've got some friends that I went to school with that are now business owners in some form or fashion, and which is kind of cool to see those guys do as well as they have. So, I make fun of that, or people will make fun of us sometimes, but some of the guys I went to school with, some of the guys and gals have moved on to do some pretty cool things. Arch says, were you able to look at Goodman package heat pumps? If so, do you think that pretty much the same as the Daikin package units? Yeah, I think all in all, they're made very close to the same, Arch. There might be a few components that are, better. There are some warranties on some of the systems that are better than others. And I don't want to speak out of turn, but I do know that, there's some, I don't know. I think there's some of the products have like a 20-year warranty on the heat exchanger, whereas some of them have a lifetime warranty. And then Daikin has, their unit replacement warranties on some of their products. So, even if they are somewhat the same or the model numbers are the same, you might be getting a better warranty in the end if you go, the Daikin route. Sheldon says, one of the arguments I have heard is the UV only works for the cabinet and doesn't treat the air flowing through. Thoughts? Yeah, I actually listened to a podcast on this exact topic a few months ago where the guy was basically talking about how that they've said in clinical tests that just a bulb, just a UV light itself does not actually clean 100% of the air that goes through there. But his argument was a couple things. And first of all, he's right. If it's just a bulb sitting in there and that air's passing through there, it's, not actually cleaning or filtering the air like a filter would, right? And so obviously anything that light is hitting, that's shining on, it's sanitizing. But the other thing he was saying was, even if that bulb is sitting in there, and the way he had described it is, let's say 20% of the air passing through there is getting cleaned in some form or fashion, and then it gets spit back out in the house. And you got the system that's it's running, right? And so it goes back in the house and only 20% of the air got cleaned, but then it gets pulled back in, and now another 20% of that air is now being cleaned. And the way he described it is, as this air continues to cycle, it does eventually clean all the air. I don't know. I mean, that's just something he was talking about. I don't want to say one way or the other on that. I just know my whole thing with UV lights is I know what I've seen. And I know that I was in a guy named Mr. Cohen when I started Griffin Air years ago, and I went to his house, and he had an M-coil ream air handler, and I cleaned that coil, and there were just nooks and crannies that I just simply could not physically get to and clean it real well. And so there was this black buildup on that coil. And so we talked, and I had him buy a UV light, and we installed it, and I went back 6 months later and did his maintenance on his system and cleaned his system again and checked do all the things we do on tune-ups, check the refrigerant and clean the coils, treat the drains, all the things we do. And I opened the system up expecting to see this black buildup, and it blew me away. That coil was shiny as a nickel, a brand new nickel. And from that day on, I mean, that was 9 years ago or more. And from that day on, I was a believer. I put one in my system, my home system, I don't want to say the next day, but very soon after. Arch says Daikin has a 12-year warranty and a 6-year unit replacement warranty if the compressor goes out. It depends on the product, but yes, some of their products actually have 12-year unit replacement warranties. Thomas says, is it true? Welcome to the show, Thomas. I don't know if I've seen you on our show before. Is it true having a 3-story house with 1,640 square feet with a 3-ton heating and air system getting cool air to the 3rd floor is not that good compared to the 2nd and 1st floors? What can be done if so? I think essentially, I mean, I don't know the full story, Thomas, but heat rises. So if you've got the 3rd floor not cooling as well, we did a video on this where we talked about how because heat rises, you have what's called a zoning problem. You have a zoning issue. It's not a ductwork issue. And the reason I say that is if you were to size the ductwork to dump more cool air in that 3rd floor, and then I don't know where you are in the country, but let's just say you're near me, you're in Virginia, and now the heating season rolls around. It's now wintertime, and now you've oversized this ductwork going to the 3rd floor, and now it's dumping hot air up there. So, you've oversized it to get all this cool air up there in the summer, and now you've got all this hot air being dumped up there, and heat rises again. Now you've got a really hot 3rd floor. So it's a zoning issue, and you've got to look for some sort of solutions to alleviate a zoning problem, not a ductwork problem. Nicholas says, if there is a joist in the way of the upstairs airflow to a bedroom, does it make sense to put 2 vents right next to each other? Does it make sense? I mean, it's hard to answer that, Nicholas, but I've seen things like that done before, or size it bigger than you would have, so for example, 2 6-inch pieces of 2 6-inch round ducts are equivalent or close to equivalent to an 8-inch round duct for a supply. So 2 6-inch ones are 100 CFMs and 8-inch is 200 CFMs. So you might run that 8-inch instead of a 6 to that space because of a joist being in the way and not being able to get another, vent in that room possibly. So you guys held out on me. We're getting towards the end of our show here, and now you're rolling in some questions. So we're going to answer a few more questions and probably cut it short there. Looks like we've had quite a few folks on our show tonight, and I just want to say welcome to everybody. We're going to make a big push over the next 18 months, maybe more like 16 months now, and get to 100,000 subscribers so that way I can get behind. I feel like once our channels has 100K subscribers, we're going to be able to maybe get behind a few more closed doors and have a little more validity, a little more recognition, and be able to say to some of these companies, hey, our channel is recognized in this space. You need, I don't want to say you need, but you should let us, tour your facility, show these folks some things that, they won't get to see elsewhere. That's kind of the hope and dream here. So if you haven't hit the subscribe button before, we'd love your support. Sheldon says the price of Freon hasn't dropped since COVID. Will it ever drop? I don't think so, Sheldon. Not anytime soon. With the way inflation is right now, I don't think anybody has any motivation to. So unfortunately, I hate to say that. Brian says UV lights are swell time. Carl says, I think mold releases spores that would be released into the air. At least you'd be stopping that. Very true, pal. Brian says, passing air is hardly changed with a UV light. Depends depends is every answer. Ain't that true? I mean, it really is. I mean, a lot of the questions that we get, we try to, try to be specific, but I will almost always defer to your local pros. That you might be dealing with something in your area that I don't deal with, or vice versa. We take, because we're near the coast and the humidity and the extreme temperatures that we sometimes see, we have to, take care of, we have to, have solutions that maybe somebody that is in a colder climate and not so humid, that, I always have to defer to your local pros because maybe things are just done differently there. So yeah. Shelby says, can Thomas try turning his stat temp setting down a few degrees on the second and third floor to help because heat rises? It depends, Shelby. I mean, it depends if it's, Brian just said depends is every answer. It depends because, the question becomes, is his current system zoned? So changing thermostats on each floor, if he doesn't have a thermostat on each floor, then that would not solve the issue. So anyway, as we draw to a close here, we do one thing fun every single week on this show. And that is, even if you've done it before, feel free to do it again. I'm sure they would appreciate it. And that is, we call out all the good heating and air companies across the country. So if you live in an area and you've got a good heating and air company near you, let's give them some love, shout them out, and give them some love. And you never know, somebody in your area may see your shout out to a good heating and air company, and you're able to help that company out and help that customer out as well. Help them find that good heating and air company. So feel free to do that. Put where they're located in the country, and the name of the company. And that's just something that we do to wrap up every show every week. And again, we will be back again next Tuesday, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. So if you are not on the East Coast, figure out what that time is for you, and we'll be here live. Gary says, good night, Josh. As always, a great evening with you and the gang. Look forward to your next presentation. Thanks, Gary. Look for that new video. It's going to be coming out Thursday night. And Arch says, when I find one, I'll let you know. Nice. So yeah, feel free. Brian says, Kalos. I don't know if that's one of the heat and air companies that are doing things right. But I'm not sure. So feel free to again, shout those out. Gail says, shout out to Super Service Air Conditioning in Las Vegas, Nevada. Las Vegas, Nevada. So shout out to those guys. Obviously, you're doing some things right. Gail not only shouted you out, but she even put a star that's exploding right there when she shouted you out. So you guys must be doing something right. And shout out to those guys. Emery says, shout out to Barker. Emery, remind me again where you're located, or at least where Barker is located. And Brian says, Brian Orr owned Kalos in Orlando. For those of you that don't know who Brian Orr is, most anybody in the heating and air industry knows who he is. He's got probably one of the biggest YouTube channels, and it's called HVAC School. And he does videos on, schooling things when it comes to heating and air stuff. Bob says, we'll see you next week. Good to see you, Bob. Arch says, thanks, Josh. Looking forward to watching the rest of the video. Have a good evening. Have a good night, Arch. And Emery says, Barker's Heating and Cooling in College Station, Texas. Emery, they must be great because you have called them out before, I believe. So shout out to Barker's. You guys must be doing some good things. Emery has shouted you out before, so we appreciate what you guys are doing. Me and Emery both. So with that, guys, we're going to wrap up. I appreciate your support. Please hit that subscribe button. Give us a like. Give us a share. That always helps. And again, we'll be right back next week. You'll see this chubby face live again. And hopefully soon it won't be quite so chubby. I'm starting to go to the gym again and trying to eat a little healthier. So I appreciate it. Craig, great first show. Me. Craig must be a great guy because his last name is Griffin, and I am a supporter of that. So welcome to the show, Craig. We are wrapping up, though. And again, we'll be back, as always, every Tuesday. Next Tuesday, we'll be back at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. And in the meantime, make it a great week. Take care.